big city crime rocks a small Louisiana town.
We never had a homicide in 11 years.
With no motive, clues, or suspect, authorities take an unusual step.
In order to get a real connect, Rose told me she needed something personal.
White male, 5'8" or 5'10".
Dirty, paper his hands.
We really were fearful that we had a serial murderer on our hands.
These are the true stories of real cases and the psychics who help investigators solve their most baffling mysteries. Gonzales, Louisiana. On a muggy April morning, a church group grows uneasy. 71-year-old Lillian Philippi hasn't shown up for a special event.
She was late, and they said that was not like her. She was always 30 minutes early for everything.
911, state your emergency.
Police go to her house to investigate.
I found Mrs. Philippi on the floor in the master bedroom, covered with a blanket that had been pulled from the bed. So whoever did it just wouldn't be able to see Mrs. Philippi in her final moments of suffering.
She had been stabbed repeatedly in the neck area.
Bled to death as a result of the stab wounds. The weapon that was used was a knife out of Mrs. Philippi's own kitchen.
It's a familiar pattern. Lillian Philippi is the third murder victim in 6 months.
We really were fearful that we had a serial murderer on our hands. There was a definite fear amongst the residents of Gonzales that any one of them could have been the next victim. One of the first things we did was reach out to our neighbors here in Ascension Parish, the Sheriff's Department, who had officers who had the proper training in the field of homicides and all the new techniques.
I was contacted by the Gonzales Police Department to assist them in the investigation of the murder of Mrs. Lillian Philippi. It appeared that the perpetrator had cut the phone wires to the residence and made entry through an attic vent that was on top of the roof.
We learned that a wrought iron chair was taken off the front porch, placed onto a air-conditioned unit, and the perpetrator used that chair to gain access to the roof.
We were able to actually find a footprint on the air conditioner unit outside of the residence.
That was lifted and sent to the FBI crime lab.
But the results are disappointing.
What we were able to learn based on the shoe print was just an actual size and maybe a brand X type of shoe that really wasn't a high market type shoe.
So we didn't have any evidence physical evidence that we can put to a perpetrator at this point in time.
Fear grips the town as news of the latest crime quickly spreads.
I have a high school classmate who I heard from because her parents were friends with the Philippines.
She tells him about a friend who may be able to help with the case.
A friend by the name of Rose, who is a psychic.
Psychic Rose Kopp lives in Hawaii, but she can investigate crimes without leaving home.
My first out-of-body experience was while I was meditating, and I found myself floating like a balloon in someone's room and heard the whole conversation, and I didn't know how to control it.
Today, Kopp chooses her own destinations.
Through meditation, I travel out of my body to the actual crime scene and gather information.
With nowhere else to turn, the chief contacts the psychic.
My name is Bill Landry. I'm chief of police in Gonzales, Louisiana.
Oh, hi, Chief Landry. I've been expecting your call. I saw the whole scene. I saw her house, the carport. I felt Miss Lillian's presence. Then I moved forward in time with him and watched him put on a pair of gloves, walk through the carport. He feels to me to be very anxious.
The chief is intrigued, but it's not the kind of information that will lead him to a suspect.
In order to get a real connect, Rose told me she needed something personal. I packaged up a photograph and a handkerchief of Mrs. Philippes and sent it to Hawaii.
Can the psychic put police on the killer's trail from 4,000 miles away?
River Rat.
When we return. Three unsolved murders rock the tiny town of Gonzales, Louisiana. With nowhere else to turn, Chief Bill Landry asks psychic Rose Kopp for help.
Miss Lil. I had Miss Lil's picture in my hand and the handkerchief, and I meditated and I cast my consciousness to where her house is. I astrally walked into her house and saw her lying on the floor. So I moved back in time, and I saw him with a knife.
With a knife.
A lot of trauma, multiple stab wounds in the back of the face, and injuries around her face and neck. A lot of blood.
Kopp wanders through her vision like a detective at a crime scene.
I stood behind the perpetrator to get some idea of what he looked like. I read the label on his jeans to give me some idea of his height and weight. I determined that he was between 5'8" and 5'10". He was on the thinner side. His hands are dirty. His fingernails are dirty. And his hands are thick and calloused like a laborer's hands.
Landry is shocked at the detail of Kopp's description.
Here is a woman in Hawaii across the Pacific Ocean that gave me information that was pertinent to the death of Miss Lee Phillippe.
But before police can follow up on the psychic's lead, the killer strikes again.
Forced entry was done to gain access into the residence. A weapon of opportunity was used to commit the crime, as well as phone wires being cut.
That was his mode of operation.
We felt certain that the person involved in these two additional homicides was also the one that was involved in the Philippe case.
They were all elderly people. They're all attacked at their homes. The phone lines were cut, and they were robbed at the time of the murders.
But again, there's nothing that can lead investigators to a suspect.